Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. I'm a 67-year-old widow. I worked for over 40 years as a surgical nurse. Long, grueling shifts, holidays spent at the hospital, standing for hours with an aching back and sore feet, making life or death decisions alongside doctors in tense, sterile operating rooms. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me a sense of purpose, and I was proud of what I did. After my husband passed away 11 years ago from cancer, my work became my lifeline. It kept me busy, helped me cope, and gave me structure when grief threatened to eat me alive. My husband and I were married for 34 years. He was a quiet man, a high school teacher who adored his family. Losing him gutted me, but I kept going. I had to, for our daughter. I only have one child, my daughter, Rachel, 38 female. She was my miracle baby, born after years of fertility treatments and heartbreak. I loved her with every fiber of my being. Even when we disagreed, I always tried to support her. I tried to give her the best life possible. I paid for her school, helped with her first car, and helped her with the down payment on her first condo. I didn't expect anything in return. She was my daughter. That was enough. Rachel married a man named Jared about 6 years ago. I'll be honest, I never liked him. He had a slippery smile and always seemed like he was trying too hard to impress people, but never for the right reasons. He never really talked to me unless he needed something. Still, I kept my mouth shut. It wasn't my marriage, and after her father passed, I think Rachel was craving stability, even if it came in a questionable package. Jared has 2 daughters from a previous relationship. Rachel never had kids of her own, and she's taken on the role of stepmother with full commitment. I respected that. She's always doted on the girls and calls them her own. I thought that was sweet. I even started sending birthday and Christmas gifts to them, like I would biological grandchildren. I was trying. I wanted to believe that, despite my misgivings, she was building a happy family. A few months ago, I finally retired. I had been delaying it for years, telling myself the hospital still needed me. But truthfully, I was just afraid of what my life would look like without work. Still, I was exhausted. My back ached more every day. My arthritis flared constantly, and my energy wasn't what it used to be. After 4 decades, I finally put in my retirement notice. To celebrate, I decided to gift myself something I had always dreamed of, but never had the time or money for. A European cruise. 10 days through the Mediterranean. Rome, Santorini, Barcelona, the French Riviera. I was planning to book a balcony room. It was expensive, but I told myself, this is it. You've earned it. Let yourself enjoy life for once. When I told Rachel about the cruise, her reaction was off. She didn't seem excited for me. Instead, she looked panicked. She started fidgeting and said there was something she needed to talk to me about. I assumed it was health-related. Maybe she was having trouble. But then she started crying. She told me that Jared had been gambling, a lot, that she only just found out how deep he was in, and it wasn't just casual online poker. He'd been taking out loans, betting on sports, draining accounts. And now he owed a group of people. She didn't say who, but she implied it was serious, that they were threatening him, that they were threatening her. She told me they needed $20,000, and they had 2 weeks to pay it. I was stunned. I asked her why she hadn't come to me sooner. She said she was embarrassed, ashamed, scared, that she didn't want me to judge Jared, that she thought she could fix it. But now she was out of time. Without thinking much, I told her I'd help. Maybe it was maternal instinct. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just blind loyalty. But I told her I'd cancel the cruise and wire her the money. She instantly agreed, saying there'll be other cruises. So I transferred the $20,000 to her account the next day. She promised it would all be paid back eventually. That she and Jared were going to do counseling. That things would change. I believed her. 2 weeks later, I was on Facebook when I saw something that made me sick. Rachel had been tagged in a photo by one of her friends. It was a group shot. Rachel, Jared, and the two stepdaughters standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, smiling, wearing matching t-shirts that said, "Family Trip 2024. I stared at it for a full minute, not believing what I was seeing. More photos followed. Macarons in a Parisian cafe, shopping in Le Marais, a selfie in front of Disneyland Paris, a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking. I felt sick. I called her immediately. No answer. I texted. No reply. I called again. She finally picked up and sounded surprised to hear from me. I asked her, calmly at first, what was going on. She said they had managed to resolve the debt situation and that Jared's brother had helped out. That the trip to Paris was already planned months ago and had been partially paid for already. That they just decided to still go for the girls. That it was a dream come true for the youngest stepdaughter to go to Disneyland. I asked her directly, was my money used for that trip? She hesitated, then said not directly, but it helped free up other funds. She told me I should be happy they were doing something positive after such a dark period. I told her she was a liar. I told her she manipulated me, took advantage of my kindness, and treated me like a doormat. That I sacrificed something meaningful, something I earned for her. And she used it to fund a European vacation for her husband and stepkids. She started crying. Told me I didn't understand, that I was being cruel, that she couldn't say no to the girls because they were so excited, that they didn't have any holidays for years, that she had to make up for all the stress Jared's addiction had caused, that the trip was healing. I told her I hoped it was worth it, because she would be getting nothing else from me, ever again. And I meant it. I called my lawyer that afternoon and updated my will. As of now, Rachel is disinherited. Everything, my house, my savings, my pension, my jewelry, every single thing I own, will go to my sister. Since then, Rachel has been texting and emailing constantly. One moment she's apologizing, saying it was a mistake. The next, she's angry, saying I'm being unfair for punishing her because she wants to enjoy life. That I'm throwing away our relationship over money. But it's not about the money. It's about the betrayal, the manipulation, the entitlement. I gave up something I had looked forward to for years. The one thing I had planned for myself after decades of putting everyone else first. And she spent that money on croissants and Disney tickets. And she was never even going to tell me. If her friend hadn't tagged her, I never would have known. So I'm done. I'm choosing boundaries. I'm choosing not to be used anymore. But some family members are saying I went too far. That I could have just set boundaries without cutting her out. That I'll regret it later. That it's just a mom being a mom. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for disinheriting my daughter after she lied to me about needing $20,000 for a gambling debt and used it to take a luxury vacation instead? Not the a-hole. She didn't just lie. She emotionally blackmailed OP. She watched OP cancel something incredibly meaningful that OP had earned with decades of hard work and grief, and then turned around and used her money to sip wine under the Eiffel Tower. That's not a mistake. That's a manipulation. The tears, the excuses, the "but the girls" narrative. All of it is damage control. OP owes her nothing. She gambled on his trust, and now she's lost. And now let's hear community's opinion. You're not punishing her for a misunderstanding. You're holding her accountable for a calculated betrayal. She played the desperate daughter card, weaponized your love, and now she's panicking because you won't let it slide. And the cherry on top, she didn't even have the guts to tell you. You had to find out through a tagged photo. Honestly, she's lucky you didn't press charges. Not the a-hole. Let me get this straight. She fabricated a crisis, guilt-tripped her retired widowed mother out of $20,000, lied to your face, and then had the audacity to pose smiling in Disneyland Paris like nothing happened? And now she's crying about inheritance? She already inherited your generosity and threw it away. You didn't disown your daughter. You disarmed a leech. Not the a-hole. She used your motherhood. She used your love. And she only started apologizing after she got caught. You gave her a gift she didn't deserve, and now she's acting like the victim because you finally said enough. You're not being petty. You're finally protecting your peace. Good for you. Not the a-hole 1,000 times over. I got engaged 2 months ago, and I was thrilled. Our relationship is super strong. And I'd say our only real problem is that his mom is a nightmare. But he is in agreement about putting me first and enforcing boundaries. The first time I saw her after the engagement, she took my hand and held my ring up against hers, and just smiled at me. Hers is considerably bigger. She told me it was cute for a starter ring, and said she was sorry she threw her first engagement ring into the ocean, or she could have passed it down to me. I replied that I'm superstitious and wouldn't wear a ring from a failed marriage, and mother-in-law said, well, anything would be bigger than that. A week later at her anniversary, her husband gave her some jewelry, and she held it up against my ring, moved it to make it sparkle, and giggled. My fiancé had a talk with her and let her know to knock it off. She then asked if I was disappointed with my proposal because we were just on the couch. To be honest, I was, and it was embarrassing because I felt she could sense it. I said the proposal doesn't matter, and she said she feels like that is just something society wants women to believe, so they have low standards. The last straw was when she told my proposal story to her stepdaughter, who made a face. And then mother-in-law said maybe I don't mind boring because I'm an accountant. I snapped at her that if she made one more comment, she would not be invited to the wedding. Mother-in-law said that is fine, and she thinks she might be out of the country anyway if we go with the date we thought we would. Why didn't she tell us that originally? Mother-in-law's husband, enabler from hell, said she is just acting like this because she is mad that I got engaged the day before her birthday and showed up to her huge, think luxury wedding size, party wearing my ring. I didn't even think of it, but that makes sense because mother-in-law's best friend accidentally ruined my outfit and I had to leave. Mother-in-law's husband said I should apologize to her. My first thought was, hell no, but other family members said she was just getting even and I should drop it. Not the a-hole. Does this woman realize that she isn't even criticizing you? She's being critical of the ring her son picked out and the way her son proposed. She does. She's made comments before about how I must have low self-esteem because she wouldn't settle for a man who treated her like that. He doesn't treat me badly at all, but mother-in-law's husband treats her like an absolute princess. She didn't raise him and is very critical, and views his behavior as a reflection of her much-hated ex-husband. Not the a-hole. If she is petty enough to do all this just to get even, what is she going to pull at the wedding? You didn't do anything wrong by going to her birthday party wearing your engagement ring. Your mother-in-law sounds exhausting and mean-spirited. I'm willing to bet that even if you got engaged after her birthday, she still would pull these stunts. She sounds like the kind of person that doesn't like anyone else having more attention than her. Your engagement is a threat to her narcissism and ego. Not the a-hole. Your mother is a child and clearly doesn't care that you're marrying her kid because she's just that self-absorbed. She's lucky you're as nice as you are. A lot of people would have stooped to her level in their responses. My first reaction to her actions would have been, are you trying to call your son cheap? Have you talked to your therapist about whether your need for showy, expensive parties and gifts is a reflection of low self-esteem or lack of genuine affection in your marriage? And I know that's childish. Clearly, her love language is gifts and yours is something else. Maybe mention it to her next time and use that as your go-to for ending such conversations. I.e., yes, we've already established that my love language is not gifts. I'm not sure why you continue to bring this up. Is there some change you're expecting to see on this front? My ex-wife, 33 female, and I, 33 male, were married for almost 2 years before we divorced 6 years ago. When we were dating, we talked about kids. I said I didn't want to be a father, and she felt the same way. A year after we got married, she said she started having second thoughts and decided she did want to be a mom. We tried to work this out, but there was no going back. Maybe I was just desperate to save my marriage, because other than that, we really had a great life together and we loved each other deeply. Then one day, she told me she was going to schedule an appointment with a fertility clinic to try to have a baby via IUI, since I have refused to get her pregnant, and if I wanted to stay, then I needed to accept that we were going to have a baby. This wasn't going to work out for us. I wasn't ready to be a dad, and she shouldn't be deprived of being a mom, so I filed for divorce. She didn't want me to leave, but it was the best thing to do. Year after the divorce, I became friends with my current wife, Addie. We became really good friends, and I fell hard for her. Addie was a single mom with a 2-year-old daughter, so I was really conflicted at first about pursuing a relationship, but we made it work. The two made it so easy to fall completely in love with them, and after being together for 3 years, we finally got married 10 months ago. My ex is still in contact with my siblings, which I'm fine with. And through them, she learned that I not only remarried, but I was now a stepfather. My brother told me my ex wanted to talk, and after checking in with my wife, we met up for coffee to catch up. She showed me pictures of her now 5-year-old son, Robert, and she confessed that she felt a little cheated after learning about my new family. That according to her, I clearly didn't have much of a problem with kids, and we'd probably still be together raising our family. I didn't know what to say, but what I wasn't expecting was for her to tell me I should bond with Robert, since he legally would have been my son if I hadn't divorced her. She became angry when I told her no, and said I owed Robert for walking out on the marriage, and he deserved to have a father too. I left early because she was making no sense, and my wife agrees that is very unusual. I have no ties to Robert, and how can I be a father to a kid I don't know? We have our own family and our own life. My brothers and parents have heard from both sides, and they do feel I should step up for this kid. They're a bit biased though. While they adore my wife and stepdaughter, they still have a soft spot for my ex, and have said she's had a hard time as a single mom, and it really would be beneficial for Robert to have a father. Me refusing to be a part of his life is unfair to them, since I obviously wasn't completely against having kids as I said I was when we divorced. I get that she feels cheated. I would too. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. There's a big difference between your wife telling you she's doing IUI and you need to suck it up, and meeting someone who is upfront about already having a child. Not the a-hole. I would honestly consider asking your family to distance themselves from her at this point, because if I was your current wife, I would feel very strange. Not the a-hole. I know this is hard for people to believe, but human beings are allowed to change their minds as they are exposed to new things in life. Maybe you would have been more okay with a kid if you'd stayed with your ex-wife and would have learned to love your son as you love your stepdaughter. Or maybe you would have become even more staunchly anti-kid. You owe her nothing. Does it suck from her perspective? Yes, absolutely. But something sucking doesn't entitle you to stuff. Not the a-hole. Perhaps your ex should have waited to marry again before having a child, if she wanted the child to have a father, and not be a single mom. You are allowed to change your mind. The issue is, she didn't give you time to do so. With her, it was I'm having a baby soon, and you can deal with it or leave. You left because you didn't want a baby then. I have a blended family. My late wife passed 10 years ago when my daughter was 8. 3 years ago, I married a woman who had lost her husband 12 years ago, who has a 15-year-old daughter. The girls get along fine most of the time, as well as you could hope for 2 teenage girls who live together. My wife left behind a lot of jewelry. Most of it my daughter has now. However, she had a beautiful 3-carat diamond ring that I told my daughter she would get when she was old enough. She assumed that she would get it on her 18th birthday, yesterday. And since that was the plan, it was strongly implied that was when I would give it to her, though I never said it outright. A few nights ago, our daughters came home from the nail salon. My office overlooks the living room, so I can hear what they are saying, though I'm not sure if they knew I was in there. I don't remember the exact words they said because I wasn't really listening. I was working and they were speaking loudly. My daughter began talking about how nice her nails were going to look with her mother's ring, and her stepsister said something along the lines of how lucky she was she got her mother's jewelry. My daughter kind of laughed in a mean way and said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I'm real lucky my parents actually love me." At this point, I began actually listening. My stepdaughter asked my daughter what she meant, and my daughter replied that if her father had really cared about her, he would have left her nice things before he died. I was floored. This is not the way I raised her to behave, and if her late mother had heard her speaking like that, she would be livid and ashamed. I had a private talk with my daughter afterwards and told her how disappointed I was in her, and that was a horrible, disrespectful way to speak to her stepsister. My stepdaughter rolled her eyes and said that her stepsister was overly sensitive. So my daughter's birthday came and went, and I did not give her the ring. That night, when she realized I wasn't going to surprise her with the ring, she began crying and throwing a full-blown tantrum. She said that I was disrespecting her mother's wishes by not giving her the ring. She said she had told her friends that she was getting the ring, And now they were going to think she was a liar. I'm not going to give the ring to anyone else or anything. Right now it's in a safe deposit box, until my daughter can prove that she is not a spoiled brat, or I die, whichever comes first. My daughter is still moping around the house, saying that she thought having the ring would make her feel closer to her late mother. Am I the a-hole for not giving her the ring? Withholding the ring is not enough to make this better. She is just going to keep resenting you about the ring and not understand what this is about. You and her need to understand why she said what she said. Does she equate things to love? If one of the biggest things she got from her mom was jewelry, I can see how at a young age that can be confusing. Does she understand privilege? She needs to see the immense privilege it is to be born into a family that can afford 3-carat rings, for many reasons. That immigrants come to this country sacrificing everything out of love to give their kids more. That low-income parents scrape paycheck to provide for their kids. And those people don't love their kids any less. They are just less fortunate. This is something you happen to hear her say. What else does she say to her stepsister when you aren't there? Not the a-hole. Your daughter is acting like an entitled brat, and you are being a wonderful dad by not rewarding that behavior or entitlement. May I suggest that you strongly suggest, when it's safe, that she can show maturity by not only treating her sister with respect, but doing some community service or volunteer work with the less fortunate to hopefully gain valuable perspective. Mother-in-law isn't actually a huge kid person, so I don't think she's even upset. But some people are saying I am wrong on principle. Mother-in-law agreed to watch our kids for a few days while we went on a couples trip. We are having some marital issues and really needed that time, so I do appreciate it. Mother-in-law isn't particularly close to our kids, but she does have the fun house, so they were all for it. Mother-in-law has a stepdaughter who is my husband's half-sister. I'll call her Addie. Addie's mom was a waitress who had a threesome with mother-in-law and father-in-law and ended up pregnant. Addie had a bit of an unconventional childhood due to this. But mother-in-law decided to have fun with it and take on a cool aunt role and spoiled the absolute hell out of this kid. Addie is pretty unbearable. Addie got married 9 months ago and had a huge lavish wedding and was an absolute bridezilla. She recently found out he is cheating and had been cheating all during the wedding planning and is obviously gutted. At some point while mother-in-law was babysitting, she took my kids to Addie's house because Addie didn't want to be alone. Mother-in-law convinced Addie that she should come and stay with him and not be alone. She is going to divorce and probably sell the house. He is living separately. Addie agreed, but before she left, she damaged most of his belongings. She cut one arm or leg off all of his clothes. And this guy likes clothes. They are wealthy, so I'm talking Italian suits, designer stuff, the whole wardrobe. Mother-in-law was just laughing as it happened. My kids witnessed some of this because they told me about it. I was furious. I called mother-in-law and confronted her. Mother-in-law said I was being an a-hole and should have more sympathy. I said she was totally irresponsible for allowing my kids to witness that and brushing it off like a joke. Addie overheard, grabbed the phone and started screaming at me. So I said she was trash, but look at how she was born. Who could blame her? Mother-in-law took the phone back and called me a witch. I said she was never watching my kids again, and she is a crap grandmother, and hung up. Father-in-law is furious and says I'm being mean to his daughter. Mother-in-law texted that she might have overcompensated because she wanted to be supportive, despite thinking monogamy is dumb. But she said that what I said to Addie was unforgivable, and I need to apologize. And if not, she can see why her son is divorcing me. Which he isn't. Right now, no one is talking, and my husband even thinks I overreacted. Everyone sucks here. I'm on board with not leaving your kids with your mother-in-law. I'm not on board with you insulting Addie like that. It was rather uncalled for. Even though what she did was wrong. Protect your kids from the craziness, sure. But calling Addie that does make you the a-hole as well. This is an everyone sucks here if I ever saw one. Your sister-in-law is a very hurt a-hole who destroyed someone's property. Your mother-in-law is an a-hole for allowing 2 small kids to watch an act of malicious vindictiveness, not to say anything about the legality of destruction, and behave as if it were trivial. And you are a first-class a-hole for attributing this behavior not to your sister-in-law's pain and your mother-in-law's lack of judgment, but to her being the offspring of a threesome, as if how one is conceived plays any role in their morality. Yes, the a-hole, ungrateful for the child care, judgmental of other lifestyles, making unfounded personal attacks, and absolutely overreacting. Your children weren't engaged in any way. They saw some behavior you would rather they not replicate. But that just means you should talk to them about the awful things people sometimes do in anger, and what is and is not okay. Fine for you to have told your mother-in-law that they shouldn't have been made witness to that. Fine for you to decide to stop using her for childcare. But calling to yell at them, calling people trash, you're not modeling good behavior for your kids yourself with that kind of talk.